Hello, Internet! It's Edward Peeler, the Dread Pirate, once again, and this video's a little bit late, but, well, things have been a little crazy lately, but the point is, sadly, another Halloween has come to a close. And I've got one more video to make about that, but basically, I've had a wonderful Halloween this year. Went to Screamageddon, went to Howl-O-Scream, hung out with some friends at the castle. We had our awesome Halloween Spooktacular, and, Ace Aries, Whenever the Hell concept result videos finally came out. But there's, of course, one thing I need to touch upon, one thing I need to talk about, which is, of course, I did, in fact, go to Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando. So, there we go. There's our lovely Stranger Things opening here on the pamphlet right there. And, yeah. And, so let's talk about this. Now, once again, I think it's important to note now that it's as of now, it's 9:30 in the morning, here in Tampa. And it's November 3rd, so if you actually want to go to this event, this is your last day to do it. So, again, sorry I'm late. Been busy, had a little bit of homework, whatever. Let's talk about Halloween Horror Nights. Halloween Horror Nights is done by Universal Studios, which of course their motto is "You ride the movies." So, in terms of they could just, a lot of local people would just put on a haunted house. They would do the best they can with what they've got, but of course, Universal Studios, they're working with movie quality level of special effects, prosthetics, and whatnot. They do an excellent job. Whereas local guys in Dade City, like the Screamageddon guys, do an excellent job. Your local haunted houses, vary, probably do a great work. And Howl-O-Scream at Busch Gardens has the money to basically put up their own independent haunted houses. The beauty of Halloween Horror Nights is you'll get a lot of licensed properties that will come to life beautifully. They've got a ton of money to throw at it, and they put on this awesome haunted house, in addition to being a kick-ass theme park. I started going way back, I want to say in like high school, early college. A friend of mine was going, and his family invited me, and it was the year they had Freddy versus Jason versus Leatherface. And I was hooked at that point. It was pretty awesome. It was essentially, in addition to having a Nightmare on Elm Street house and a Friday the 13th house and whatnot, I think they had a really cool vampire house, and they also had The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, which is really neat. And then a couple years back, they had a Silent Hill house, Cabin in the Woods. I think the one in Hollywood had Alien vs. Predator, which unfortunately I don't think we've ever gotten, but we should. That would be great. One of my personal favorites was there was a Resident Evil house a couple years back, which was awesome. It starts off with just Leon Kennedy on top of a car just holding back a zombie, and the Nemesis in it, and it's great. But those are all past years, and those are awesome. You could probably find video of like the inside of the houses, what they look like on YouTube. That's what I always like to do, and kind of like, see some people go in with their little GoPros and watch it. Sometimes the press goes in and watches these things. The point is, it's really cool. You get to have a lot of haunted houses based off a lot of your favorite horror properties. And it's definitely worth it. However, as I pointed out with Howl-O-Scream, if you can't afford it, you might want to try something smaller. You might want to go for Screamageddon. Screamageddon's like under $100. There's no like theme park, but it's just there's a nice little midway, and they have excellent excellent haunted houses they put together. Howl-O-Scream in Tampa, same thing. I think it's more like $130 is what I said last time. And you got a theme park, and you got cool haunted houses. So the upshot with like Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights is it varies during what time of the season that you go. So when I went last week, $300 at the door. Cheaper if you pay it online. Pay it online, it's only $200. Very expensive. So again, it's not for everybody. If you don't have the money to throw at this kind of event, and I really don't, but I'm insane and stupid and love Halloween that much, yeah, okay, I don't need to eat this week, then you may not want to do that. You may not want to go for that. However, if you're willing to, you get what you pay for. It is a very quality event, and it's really, really good. So let's cut the bullshit, and let's get right to talking about the houses we had here. We had a whopping, I think 10 houses that they had here. Let me double check here. Got my notes, naturally. Yes, we had 10 haunted houses, as well as 5 scare zones, and several rides that are open during the night. A couple of the fun things that went down. So the big thing, naturally, which you can tell by our little cover here, is the big deal was that Stranger Things was the center stage tonight. The Stranger Thing house was very, very good. If you like the show, if you're a fan of it, you won't be disappointed. You got all the Demogorgons you could ever want. They kind of start off where, again, the whole thing, it's like you're writing the show at that point. It's all kind of in the woods and going through the house. There's a lot of scenes just taken straight from the show that come to life for you. You start up. There's got a couple actresses there that are Winona Ryder trying to communicate with her son with the lights and whatnot. And of course, every so often that frickin' flower-headed Demogorgon comes out at you. They go into the laboratory too, and the laboratory starts getting transformed by the Shadow World. It was pretty awesome. It was a really good way to start the night, and it ends with Eleven kicking ass. There's one whole room where there's she's holding back the Demogorgon and blowing the crap out of it with her telekinetic powers. It's pretty freaking awesome. Yeah, it was a excellent way to start the evening. Next up, and they also have their own share of, in addition to movies, they have their own fair share of original haunted houses that are not really based off anything, but they come up with some really cool stuff. Yeah, this year was no exception. They had a lot of really good ones. Namely, the second one, which I went to, was Carnival Graveyard Rust in Pieces. Essentially, it's a rundown carnival that is haunted and very, very dangerous, full of killer toys, psychotic carnies, just good old fashioned slasher murderers, killer clowns, and even psychotic ringmasters. It was pretty cool. It was very grisly. It was a lot. They went to the extra effort to show this have all these really fucked up toys that are just kind of broken down and just kind of everything was kind of grinding and falling apart. It was pretty cool. A couple neat things in particular. I think there was one point where there's a clown up on the higher ledge who's throws down a body that's swinging on a rope at you, or I think it was either that or it was a barrel. So there's a couple little really neat things in that one. So that was a lot of fun. From there, we had Scary Tales, Deadly Ever After. Now, this one was really cute, and in particular, again, going with their theme park sensibilities, this was technically a movie-based house. The premise being is that the Wicked Witch of the West has successfully taken over the Land of Oz, and she's also basically used her dark magics to not only imprison not only imprison Dorothy, but also she's gone after various other fairy tale characters and turned their stories into grim fairy tales. It's really awesome. It starts off with the Emerald City Castle with up at the top there's the Wicked Witch of the West, and there's a lady who's suspended with a harness and she flies out over everybody. It's really cool. The lady that had there that when I was there too was actually pretty smoking hot too. So it's I love me some hot witches. So that was neat. There's right off the bat Dorothy's captured and in a dungeon. Other cool thing, all the Oz characters had been transmuted into monsters. So you had the Cowardly Lion is just straight up a roaring lion that comes out and roars at the people going through. I think Scarecrow was a scary ass undead Scarecrow thing, and they're all the classic companions of Dorothy were all fucked up looking. But you also had you run into the Three Little Pigs. The Three Little Pigs are now frickin' Gamoran pig guards from not the Last Jedi. Fuck the Last Jedi. Sorry, Return of the Jedi. The good Jedi movie. Sorry, I don't know. It's early in the morning. So they're these scary pigmen. That's really neat. Three little bears. The three bears. It's they're giant freaking bears. You also there's a werewolf for the big bad wolf. A lot of cool stuff there. They had Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty's freaking dead, but all the king's horses are there, but they're vomiting from, I guess eating raw eggs or something like that. There's a lot of nice little ghouls and things like that based off of fairy tales. I really like the Scary Tales one. Whereas Carnival Graveyard was a lot of fun, but it was that one was I kind of went through it a little too quickly, and it's having trouble remembering exactly some of the best scares from that. But it all kind of bled together, but it was great. Whereas I think Scary Tales, I was kind of taken aback by the creativity in there. I thought it was really, really cool. Next up, one of my favorite movies of all time, Poltergeist. Poltergeist House. Fucking awesome. It starts off, you go in, you see the house, but you're not walking into the house. No. You're going in to this little cave underneath the house where all the bodies are stored. And it starts off with the line from the movie. It's you moved the gravestones. You moved the gravestones. You didn't move the bodies, you just moved the headstones. And you're surrounded by, that's how you go in. You go in through those catacombs underneath the house. with dead bodies just like popping out at you. And right up very near to the beginning, you run into Reverend Kane. Reverend Kane's waiting for you, and then the fun begins. It was really cool. It was really cool to see the Poltergeist movie just kind of come to life here. You had ghosts. You had like getting sucked into the other dimension. You had a little Zelda Rumenstein come out and like warning you about what's going on. Beware, he's coming for you. You had the clown. There was even a part where like the tree was broken through the building like at one point. And towards the end, as things really heat up, you just have the big scary kind of skeletal Reverend Kane coming out and all the weird kind of like H.R. Geiger monsters. It was pretty awesome. Poltergeist was really great. So I have one major criticism of, well, not just Halloween Horror Nights, which this falls under, but also just over my general Halloween experience. I've had a really good time. Been a lot of really good haunted houses this year. But unfortunately, at Halloween Horror Nights, I did find my worst in show. This is not just the worst haunted house, in my opinion, of Halloween Horror Nights. This is the worst haunted house I've been to all year. Yeah. Screamageddon, Howl-O-Scream don't have the money that Halloween Horror Nights has, but they put together better haunted houses overall compared to this one. It's not a terrible house, but I do have to criticize it. And this is, of course, the Blumhouse house. So, of course, you're probably familiar with a lot of Blumhouse's movies and whatnot. Typically, Blumhouse will do a haunted house or some kind of haunted house spectacle at Halloween Horror Nights. There was one year they had just kind of a big general Blumhouse house, which featured a lot of the monsters from their movies. So they had like some of the monsters from like Sinister and Insidious. So like you had the Demon Bagul from one of those movies. I'm not sure which one. I haven't seen those. But on top of that, later on, you run into the Purge. You have the crazy Purge maniacs running around. If they don't do that, and sometimes even when they do that, they also have scare zones, which are dedicated to the Purge, where it's like it's the Purge movies and it's Purge night, and you have crazy Purge maniacs coming after you. You can see some of the footage of on YouTube of some past years where they'll have the lady from like the Purge 2 announcing, "Oh, enjoy, yes." The found, we celebrate for the new founding fathers, and celebrate the Purge and release the evil. It's just, and they'll like drag people from the audience, so I'm pretty sure actors, and they'll kill them, and it's pretty cool. The Purge scare zones have been classically very good. So what they did this year though was they had the one haunted house for Blumhouse, no Purge scare zones, unfortunately, but they decided to have the haunted house focus on only two of the Blumhouse movies, namely Happy Death Day and the first Purge. So, still going with a Purge theme here. So the problem is I haven't seen Happy Death Day. I've heard good things about it, but essentially the first half of the house was Happy Death Day. The second half was the first Purge. Haven't seen Happy Death Day, although I heard good things. And I did see the first Purge, and I even reviewed it earlier this year, and I liked it. I liked it a lot, but then again, I'm a weirdo who actually likes the Purge movies. Go ahead and flame me. Sorry, folks. It's where Trump's taking us. It's happened. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Everybody who loves the Purge movie, they're correct. All of you alleged smart people who think it's not gonna happen, you're just wrong. Whatever. Anyway, but again, I wasn't familiar with Happy Death Day, so it was just kind of not the best, kind of haunted house to go through, because I really didn't know what the hell was going on. It's like, I think the point of the movie is it's like there's a killer, and he's got a baby mask and a knife, and he kills like this girl over and over again in her college, and every time she dies, she comes back to life and kind of goes through like, it's like Groundhog Day with a killer, where she keeps getting killed, but like she keeps coming back to life, and like and she's kind of stuck in this cycle, and so the only way she can get out of it is to find a way to survive, essentially. I think that's the point. I'm not sure. I haven't actually seen the movie. But yeah, so it starts off, you're in a college campus, and then you're in a room, and the baby killer keeps on coming out after you and whatnot, and it just especially a lot of times there'll be several rooms in the haunted house where you just keep coming back to that freaking college dorm room. And all I can say is if you really like Happy Death Day and you've seen it and you enjoy it, you'll probably love this haunted house. But for me, it's just like, okay, it's just a killer in a baby mask, and it just, you know, especially like the baby, it just wasn't that impressive. It just wasn't that cool of a monster to constantly come out at you. Again, I would have enjoyed it a lot more if I'd seen the movie. But anyway, the point is, though, it should be like it's a 50-50 split. It's not, though, because 3/4 of this house is dedicated to Happy Death Day, whereas the final third is dedicated to the first Purge. So then finally, after, you know, you keep running to the baby with the baby with the knife over and over again, then you go to this one room and all of a sudden there's big screens. It's like, you know, like, oh, everything including class 14 weapons are allowed. Like, and you start hearing the sirens. And then finally, you know, the series I really like, The Purge. You deal with some Purge maniacs, and they recreated some of the scenes from the movie. So you got like the alleyway full of stuffed animals, which are all bombs that the crazy old lady set up. You eventually wind up in like the apartment buildings at the end of the movie, and there's like one Purge maniac with a gun and a couple scared people against the walls and whatnot. And it's okay, but it's really too short. The first Purge stuff in that haunted house is way too short. So yeah, it's not a terrible haunted house. It's better than nothing. I don't regret going through it, but it just wasn't the best, and I just felt it was lacking. It was also the very last haunted house I did during the night. After that, I hit a couple more scare zones and did some rides, but it was just kind of meh. I'd seen so much better here at Halloween Horror Nights, and I'd seen so much better at like Screamageddon and Howl of Scream. So unfortunately, the Blumhouse house gets the worst in show this year. Not terrible. You'll probably like it more if you're like a bigger fan of like Happy Death Day, but I felt like there should have been a little more first Purge in there, or a few more Purge maniacs. Baby with a knife wasn't that scary to me. However, the next house was definitely worth it. It's Slaughter Cinema. So this was like one of the best houses like of the entire month. So the premise of Slaughter Cinema is you're going through a movie theater, and the movie theater shows a lot of really trashy, like classic like horror movies, or like exploitation horror movies. And essentially what they did was they came up with all these wacky like fake movies. You know, these wacky, fake, crazy movies and they all like one in the queue for the house. They have them up on a wall, and they're showing like trailers for all these dumb fake movies they set up. And then as you go through the house, you keep on going through all the movies and running to all the monsters there. And so it's like basically like 20 haunted houses in one with all different types of monsters in it, and it's freaking great. So like the first one is like Sorority Sacrifice, and like the poster is like a bunch of like sorority girls like sacrificing something, like a bunch of kids to Cthulhu. So you go there's a giant tentacle coming up out of the ground dragging these like corpses down, and the woman comes out of the corner, she's got a Cthulhu face, she's like Cthulhu spawn. So it's like, okay, and again, you know, I'm a giant whore for Call of Cthulhu, so I'm like right there happy. The next one, werewolf bikers in a biker bar, awesome. There was another one where it's like, I think like it was about a guy who's like famous for their pumpkin. They're really good at like carving pumpkins every Halloween, and so they're really well known for it. But the problem is they have a secret. They have like a crazy kid in like the basement who kills people and then carves their faces into pumpkins. So it's like dead bodies everywhere and severed human heads, but the eyes are all cut out. And like he turned him to Jack-o'-lantern, he comes out and tries to stab you. There was one where it's like demonic birthday parties. There's like little kids that were like possessed at their birthday party and like killing people. There was one about like the Antichrist. So it's like a cult worshiping this little demon baby, this little omen baby. So they have a little plastic omen baby with the red eyes. There was one called Snacks, which like the premise behind that was like it was basically critters. I think the idea was like this guy had made some like candy that had turned into like a monster. And so when you go in the room, there's all these little critter heads. There's all these little ball, like they're all like gobstoppers or jawbreakers, but they have little mouths on them. And the scientist is like shooting one of them, and like one of the big ones. And it's basically like critters. It's really cool. And then right before you go out, there's like a giant like monster head that comes after you. There's a bunch I'm forgetting. It was so freaking awesome. It was like great. It was like 10 haunted houses in one. It was just all the Halloween fun I could have asked for. Just monsters. And it ends with the Swamp Yeti. And a giant Swamp Yeti comes out right at the end. Like a big animatronic, like, Rah! And like you run from. It's great. Friggin' Slaughter Cinema. One of the best I've had all year. It's great. Next up. And again, Slaughter Cinema, along with like the next two, are two original ones that were excellent. That like they're not based off of anything. They're just an original concept that they came up with for a haunted house, and they're freaking awesome. The next one is Dead Exposure Patient Zero, and Okay, so it's a zombie house because you got to have a zombie house. But what's interesting about it was I think it was like French based. So you're going into like this encampment or this quarantine zone, and they spray you with the gas like to decontaminate you, and there's like first aid tents and setup and things like that. But then there's this speaker that's going on. This woman's talking, and it's in French. And I think the idea is like it's a zombie apocalypse kind of taking place in France. And so there's like this military group that's investigating it. You go inside and you start getting attacked by zombies. The zombies look really cool and kind of stylized. They're all kind of like this weird sort of black and light look, like it's like some kind of like zombie monster you'd see like out of like old Italian exploitation movies. Like they looked very interesting, kind of stylized. And then the idea is you're going through like the catacombs of France where the zombies keep on coming out at you. And they jump at you. They jump at you, and they got me like tons of. I was like freaking running out of that place. It was like they would ambush me and get me, and it was really good. So that's pretty much Dead Exposure. It was an excellent zombie house, a lot of fun. And this is probably my favorite of like one of my favorites of the year, Seeds of Extinction. So the plot of this one is that it's like an asteroid crashes into the Earth, and the asteroid causes like a nuclear, like it causes like crazy increased CO2 levels, and it basically wipes out all human life on Earth and all mammal life on Earth, but causes plant life to mutate and grow. And so you're going through this area of like, it used to be like, I think like a mall or something like that. And as you're going through it, it's overtaken with plant life. And essentially you now find the new inheritors of the Earth. Mutant, alien, scary, motherfucking plant monsters. These nightmarish, horrible, nothing but mouths and like fungi coming out of their head plant monsters. The monsters in this house are freaky as hell. And of course they blend in perfectly because you're surrounded by plants. You can't freaking see them. Some of them had little the actors would put their hands in these gloves that made them look like little piranha plants out of Mario, little Audrey 2s. And they would like, they have this like pinchers like this, and they come out and like bite the crap out of you. A bunch of them had like fungi coming out of their head. Really freaking awesome. Really scary. They'd come out and just rah, rah, and just like scare the freaking like shit out of you. It was awesome. And I think the very last one looks like it's kind of made out of hay, but they had some kind of big plant monster right at the end. This is probably one of my favorites like of all the whole year. Seeds of Extinction was just, it was creative, it was unique, it was really good. Last two are movie entries, and they're great. Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat is one of my favorite. Is one of my favorite Halloween horror movies. In fact, actually, there's actually been 3 horror movies called Trick or Treat. I believe there's one in the 70s that was kind of like a murder mystery one. There's the 80s Trick or Treat, which is a rock horror story that talks about Sammy Kerr, who's basically like the rock and roll Freddy Krueger. It's really freaking awesome. Go check out the 80s Trick or Treat. And then you have the more recent 2000s Trick or Treat. I'm forgetting the writer of the name of the writer of this movie, but he's the same guy who did the Krampus, and he's a really awesome horror director and makes really great movies. And Trick or Treat is great. Trick or Treat is essentially a Halloween horror anthology about this town where Halloween comes to life. If you haven't seen Trick or Treat, I recommend you check it out. It's a great horror movie. It's really awesome. You'll know it. It's got the little sack boy on the front. Speaking of the sack boy, we start off with the sack boy. They start off going into the old guy's house where like the sack boy's tormenting. And you get the sack boy's tormenting you at a couple times. Other times he's just in the distance, like looking at you from far away and hasn't done anything yet. Sometimes he's up on the stairs. Then all of a sudden he comes out from out of nowhere, attacks you with that lollipop of his. You also have the old guy himself who like would just pop out of nowhere and like blast a shotgun. One of my favorite scenes in the movie actually was Anna Paquin's part in the movie, where you have the young ladies that are trying to enjoy the Halloween night, and it turns out a bunch of them are all really freaking werewolves. So we come around a corner, and there's this gigantic, huge werewolf animatronic. I couldn't tell it, but one of the years they had American Werewolf in London, and that one was really good. It might have been the American Werewolf in London werewolf, but I'm not sure. It might have been just something more accurate to the movie. But you had that werewolf there, and you had a couple of the girls like turning into wolf form and like coming like, ah! You had the old principal guy who was a murderer coming out every now and then. You had the fat kid who he poisoned, who's vomiting constantly. You had those little kind of crazy undead kids later on in it. It was really cool. If you like that movie, it comes to life very, very well in this house, and it's really awesome. And finally, the last haunted house is Halloween 4. I know why Halloween. We had a new Halloween come out. I don't know why Halloween 4 of all, but they decided specifically, let's focus on the movie Halloween 4. So here, full disclosure, as much as I like Halloween, and and by that I mean the holiday, I don't really care for the Halloween movie franchise. I know that's sacrilege. I know a lot of people love the Halloween movies. It's just when it comes to slashers, I'm a Freddy guy. I'm a Jason guy. Those are my two favorite slasher villains. Even also Leatherface. I like Leatherface. Michael Myers, there's always just been something that's kind of bothered me about Michael Myers. It's never really been, it's not a bad movie, but it's just kind of not my movie. It doesn't really, it's just not my favorite. It's definitely a horror classic, and I acknowledge that. The first one and the second one are good. I think 3 is an underappreciated movie. It was I believe John Carpenter was trying to do something different, and he wanted every movie to be like a Halloween anthology, but then nobody liked the fact that Michael Myers wasn't in there, and then every movie after that became about Michael Myers. So it's and it just feels like, after that, it's like Halloween just got lame. The movie just got lame. It just, I think one of my problems is the fact that, every movie, Michael Myers gets the crap kicked out of him. He gets shot. He gets torn to pieces. And one of my problems is he's fucking human. He's a human being. He's a crazy person. And I think part of the appeal of Michael Myers is that he's kind of like a force of nature. What makes him scary is that there's no reason for why he does what he does. He's just evil. He's just crazy. He just kills. They had kind of more over-the-top stuff. The whole big deal with the new Halloween that's coming out recently is that I think they're kind of doing away with the continuity, pretty much everything past the first movie. But it's not like those movies didn't happen. They did happen, and it's they started establishing, Michael Myers is Laurie Strode's sister and all that. It's they make a big deal of that, and so the continuity got kind of convoluted and silly after a while. But it was just I think my big problem is the fact that it's Freddy Krueger's an undead monster who haunts your dreams. He's a ghost. He's a demonic ghost that screws with your dreams, and so if you kill Freddy, he can come back. Jason Voorhees is an immortal super zombie. You kill him, he can come back. Jason, that's the thing. Michael Myers is a guy. He's a guy. And the first movie, he gets stabbed in the eye with a wire. He gets stabbed with his own knife. He gets shot 6 times to a chest. Falls out of a 2-story window. And then the cop looks over the ledge and he's just gone. And then the second movie starts up right where the first movie left off. And he's just walking home like nothing's wrong. He's got no healing factor like Wolverine. He's just a crazy person. So how is he fine? That's always kind of bothered me. That's always kind of bothered me at Michael Myers, and I think it kind of takes me out of it. But overall, I don't think the movies are terrible. You can definitely do worse at Halloween time. And the series has a long, lush history of horror films. And this is not even, this new one that we have coming out is not even the first one where Jamie Lee Curtis came back. She came back before I did H2O, and then Busta Rhymes kicked the crap out of Michael Myers. It was trick or treat, motherfucker. And that was dumb. And then Rob Zombie made his Halloween movies, and they're terrible. I love Rob Zombie. I love Rob Zombie for his music, and I actually really like his movies. I don't like his Halloween remakes. I'm sorry. I feel like it's okay, I wasn't even that into Halloween in the first place, and then you ruin the mystique of the character by establishing, he was just some redneck kid with a shitty childhood, and that's why he's a killer. And it made him lame, and I feel like Halloween had already gotten lame. Why am I fucking rambling on about this over and over again? My point is, as a person who doesn't really care for the Halloween franchise, I fucking loved this house. And Michael scared me. Because pretty much everything you run into in this house, it's Michael. It's just Michael. A couple times, right in the beginning, because you start off in the insane asylum that he's in, and there's a crazy person comes and just comes at you like that. And then from then on, it's Michael. I think you start out with Michael with a bunch of bandages on, but before off that, he's got the William Shatner mask on. And it's just Michael hounding you through this house constantly, and he has a little whip sound every time he slashes with a knife. And it's he scared me. I normally don't care for Michael Myers. Michael Myers scared the shit out of me this time. The Halloween 4 house was great. There was also a couple of other appearances. We had Dr. Loomis. All of a sudden, the guy comes out and shoots right next to you. He's like, Michael! Just at one point, it was another recreation from the movie where like a guy's using a shotgun to hold him back. It was a really good haunted house, and it was like, and you know, for a franchise that I'm not really that big of a fan of, it was a great experience, and it was a really fun haunted house, and I really happy I did it. So that's the 10 haunted houses. Now we have the 5 scare zones. So we're going to talk about those. First one is the Harvest. The Harvest is right in the beginning of the park. I think the premise of this is that an old barn holds horrors from each house of each of our houses. Foul creatures luck between the hay bays, ready for a harvest of blood and screams. It's a little vague. It's an area right in the front of the park where you walk by. There's scare actors ready to scare the crap out of you. And there's supposed to be a variety of monsters from the various houses. But from what I could tell, they were mostly, I think, from Twisted Traditions. They were like evil scarecrows. There's a big jack-o'-lantern guy. And they were cool looking. They were cool little monsters. It was a fun little way to kind of whet my appetite and everybody else's appetite for what is to come. There's a couple little props that were neat. Like there was like a giant pumpkin at one point. There was like this weird TV that was on that I think was advertised that was essentially Poltergeist. It's not the greatest scare zone, but it kind of gets you ready for things to come. The very last one I did was Vamp 85 New Year's Eve, and it was a good way to end. And it's very simple. It's basically vampires. And I love vampires. I'm a giant whore for vampires. Specifically, it was like, I think the premise being is it's New Year's Eve in 1985 and there are vampires there. And they're ready to party. So you have a bunch of like 80s and 70s dressed vampires just walking around kind of having a good time and coming up to bite the fuck out of you. A lot of hot women as vampires. They all looked good. Some of them had weapons. You had like kind of the punk vampires from like Lost Boys. It was cool. It was simple, but it worked. And they also had a really awesome stage show where basically the vampires were singing Thriller. And that was one of the features too. You had like vampire zombie Michael Jackson from Thriller there as one of the vampires. It was actually really good. It was a very good way to kind of end the night for me. It was the very last one I checked out fully before I started riding rides, or trying to ride rides. I'll get to that in a minute. Because I have one more criticism of Halloween Horror Nights. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. For those of you who love this little horror classic, that was pretty awesome. It's short, but yeah, they had like the big crazy clown spaceship set up. You had a bunch of like really awesome costumes of the big scary clowns. They have one like has a little stretching boxing glove who'll like throw it out in front of you like it's gonna punch you and whatnot. It was really cool. They had also like one of the machines there was like creating like a bubble machine, but the bubbles had they were completely they had some kind of milky substance inside of it, so it was like some weird slime bubbles, and if you touch them, it spills out. It's like this powdery substance was inside, so it's like they added some kind of coloring into the bubble mixture, and it was really neat. It came at this really cool effect to it. So yeah, Killer Clowns is really good. Twisted Tradition. Twisted Tradition was mainly there was a big creepy rundown house and kind of an area full of like kind of old hay and whatnot. It was kind of like sort of a kind of a backwoods area. And it was essentially celebrating kind of classic scary Halloween traditions. There was an old witch. There was a bunch of scary kind of scarecrow monster people. There was a big jack-o'-lantern. There was a bunch of melted pumpkins. There was a lot of pumpkin-headed monsters. It was kind of fun, classic Halloween scares. It was pretty cool. I especially like the looks of the kind of the fucked up melted sort of pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns they had. That was really neat. And finally, The Revenge of Chucky. Okay, so much like the Halloween franchise, I'm not a big Chucky guy. Chucky just kind of got too cheesy and silly for me. However, again, much like Halloween, I respect Chucky. I don't know if I should, but I think for starters, you got Brad Dourif. You got Brad Dourif doing the voice of Chucky, and I'm a big fan of him as an actor. And it's campy and cheesy, but it's like who am I to judge? I love campy and cheesy, so it's like and again, Chucky's one of those like characters that's had a long running franchise of characters. He's just not my favorite. I'm kind of a bigger fan of like the Leprechaun films than I am of Chucky, but Chucky's not bad. So this the centerpiece of this is there's a big kind of little display area where where we get Chucky, and we've got a little Chucky puppet, and basically Chucky is talking shit to the audience all day long. Chucky's out there just kind of making fun of everybody. Yeah, I'm gonna get you all good. Oh, we're gonna have some fun tonight. And he's out there making bad jokes. So the big centerpiece is like it's like a comedy type thing where Chucky's just kind of interacting with people and making fun of them and whatnot. But around the area, you also have other kind of maniacs that are all kind of dressed in these kind of yellow outfits and whatnot. There's also a bunch of other little like My Buddy figures that he's hanging out with, and it's something about like I said, the advertisers for We're the Good Guys, like which I'm not 100% sure what the deal was with that, but it was something having to do with the overall like storyline of the park and whatnot. But you had a couple of maniacs that were helping him out. There was like a psychotic doctor that was like working on people, and as he was like, like cutting this one dude up, like blood was shooting out at the audience. What it was water. One of my favorites was there was a killer. A killer Cabbage Patch girl that was kind of walking around, just kind of standing like this, looking mad, but she had like blood all over her, and she had like knives, and like so that was pretty scary. And they also had like toy killer monkeys with little hook hands, walking around scaring people. But there was one in particular that nailed me. That it was standing up on like a big platform, and he's kind of looking at me kind of funny, and I got really close to it, and he lifts up his leg, and then the platform sprays you with water, so he pees on you. The monkey pees on you. He got me good. He got me real good. There's a couple other things too, like there was a guy stuck in like an easy bake oven that was fried and whatnot. It wasn't bad. Again, kind of like with Halloween. I'm not a big Chucky fan, but it was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun. So that was it. So those were all the haunted houses and the scare zones. After that, I decided to do some rides. And here's where I start complaining about stuff, because I only went on 2 rides. I went on the Men in Black ride, which if you've never done that before, it's pretty cool. It's essentially you are going through the training simulation. This is just kind of a typical like Universal Studios thing. If you go to Universal Studios, you could ride this ride. So I rode that. It was you're going through like the Men in Black training thing where they're having you shoot like dummy aliens and whatnot, and you have a little you're going through the ride, but you have a little gun with shoots lasers, and you basically score points on it. Then, of course, an alien spaceship full of alien bad guys like crash lands nearby, and so now they're real aliens all over the place. The big, really kick-ass animatronic aliens, and you got to hit like the glowing parts of them, like their eyes or like little red spots. You got to hit those areas to score points. So we're fighting the aliens, and right at the end, there's like a button on the front of your thing where there's like a big giant alien, and you got to like hit that like it's like a nuclear blast in order to blow the thing up and save the day. And at the end, you get a score from Will Smith, Agent J, and we won. It's kind of like you're always dueling with like another team, and we beat the other team. We got like a higher score, but I think we only got an average score, and it was like but whatever. And so like the end, they kind of like zap you and like make you forget the whole thing. So I'm always like, all right, look away, look away. I'm remembering this. Anyway, if you've been to Universal Studios, you probably know about it already, and it's fun. I do recommend it. It's been around for years. It's a great ride. It's awesome. The other one is the Mummy, the Revenge of the Mummy ride, where you're kind of on rails going through the pyramid. It starts off and you see a couple scary things, like you're passing by a lot nice little atmospheric build-up where you're going by and there's like sarcophaguses and things like that, and then there's a guy tied up in the sarcophagus like a mummy. He's like, get out of here! Like Imhotep's back, he's crazy. And then one sarcophagus opens, it's Imhotep, and he like sucks the soul out of the guy, and then he's gonna get you. He was gonna consume your soul. And like he winds up like pulling you to this big chamber where he offers you gold and whatnot if you choose to serve him, and his big face is projected like in sand on like the end of the wall. But if you disobey him, then he'll kill you, and these giant mummies come out and scare you. And then the piece de resistance about this whole thing is it's an indoor roller coaster, so it zips you all over the place. But it takes you to a couple places. It stops where suddenly it fills up with scarabs. Another parts, fire comes out and burns you with heat. It's really awesome. It's a really awesome ride. Again, been around for years. If you've been to Orlando Universal Studios, you already know about it. It's great. I had a good time doing that. But they have a bunch of other attractions that were open, which I did not do. And they had the Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, Transformers The Ride 3D, Fast and the Furious Supercharged, Harry Potter Escape from Gringotts, and the Simpsons ride. Now, I've done the Transformers ride before. It's good. It's good. It's kind of like if you've been to the Spider-Man ride at Universal at Islands of Adventure, the sister park of Universal Studios. It's exactly like that. It's just with the Transformers, and it's set in the Michael Bay Transformers universe, and it is hands down the best thing about the Michael Bay Transformers universe. Fuck those movies. It's like all this good shit with none of the stupid crap and the dumb humor. There's just Optimus Prime and a bunch of good guy Autobots fighting badass Decepticons. It's awesome. And no bullshit. So it's great. The Simpsons ride is awesome. The Simpsons ride replaced the classic Back to the Future ride that we had in the 80s and 90s, which is awesome, and you can still find footage for on YouTube. It's a great, great ride. I wish they'd bring it back. It was like, I'm a huge Back to the Future fan. Like, you go back in time and, you know, encounter dinosaurs and all that. This one, you're in Krusty Land, and this time it's like, because I think the plot is like the Future Studios was actually sold. Doc Brown sold the Future Studios to Krusty the Clown, and Krusty the Clown like turned it into like the new Krusty Land, and you're riding around with the Simpsons characters, with the Simpsons family, and Sideshow Bob's back, and he's going to destroy Krusty Land and to get revenge against Krusty and try to kill Bart and all that, and amidst all that, so you're running around the park, and he's like taking over the park, and you're fighting Sideshow Bob, and then Maggie gets exposed to radiation and grows giant, and then Sideshow Bob starts manipulating her to go attack Springfield. So you got to stop. You got to defeat Sideshow Bob, save Springfield, and and rescue Maggie. And again, if you've been to the ride, the place before, you've already been on this ride probably a million times. So I'm going on like, unfortunately, I didn't get to ride it this time. Why? I also the Fast and the Furious Supercharged ride is brand new. Harry Potter and Escape from Gringotts has been around forever. I've never ridden it before. I've never ridden either one. Why didn't I ride them this time? Well, they close those rides at 11 o'clock. And here's where I'm gonna foist a complaint at Universal Studios. That's bullshit. It's like the events opened at like 2:30 in the morning. And, again, most people, once again, I paid for an express VIP ticket so I could get through the haunted houses quicker and do everything. And I had to shell out a little extra money in order to do that. Most people can't do that. And it's the type of thing where, again, if you're going to go to these parks, I do recommend you get a VIP pass so you can do all the scare zones and do all the rides. A lot of people can't. A lot of people just have to, they don't have it. They want to go to Universal Studios, but they'll like go for the weekend, and they'll just wait, and they'll sit in the lines for hours. And you don't want to do that. I understand you don't have the money and you're just going to have fun. You're going to do one or two houses and have a good time. Great, but it's like, really, I mean, the problem is those lines are ridiculously long. You will literally be sitting in the lines for hours. And so with that, even with you having an express pass, you're going to want to do all the haunted houses first. Because especially a lot of the rides, you can do those anytime. Unless you're me. Unless you only go to Universal Studios around Halloween Horror Nights. So it's like, you're not going to be able to do that. So it's really kind of shitty to just like to be doing this event and then stop the rides too early, because most people are not going to be doing the rides first thing. A lot of people are basically going to do the haunted houses first. They're going to go through, get those done, and then if they have time, they're going to do the rides. But there's no point in doing that if you close down half the rides. They close down Transformers, they close out The Simpsons, and yeah, unfortunately, I still haven't ridden the Fast and the Furious ride, and I still haven't ridden Escape from Gringotts. Now that one, I should have. That one's old. I've got really no excuse for that one. But yeah, it's kind of disappointing. I did get to see the dragon in Harry Potter Breathe Fire. It's like when you go into the Madigan Alley or whatever it's called. I'm not the biggest Harry Potter fan, but like you got the dragon on the top of one of the towers there, and he breathes fire. I got to see that. That was kind of cool. But yeah, that's something I don't think that's a smart idea. I think you guys should keep them open all the way to the end of the end of the night. Give people that are willing to shell out tons of money to go to your park for this event, like, more bang for their buck. Basically, make sure everybody gets an opportunity to ride these rides. So I really just, they've been doing. I remember last year, same thing. It's like I tried doing the Harry Potter ride last year, couldn't do it. They closed early, so it's like that's the other thing. The other one is the Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, which is a roller coaster that kind of goes over parts of the park. Looks really, really fun. I didn't do it. Now that one was open all night long. Why didn't I do it? Well, you got to put all your shit in a locker. And you can't. You have to go through a metal detector before you go through the damn thing, which makes no sense to me. So essentially, like, you can't have your cell phone in your pocket, and I'm not sure why. I think either they're afraid of people like taking pictures while they're up there and like dropping it, or they're afraid of people throwing shit. But basically, you can't have anything in your pockets when you're riding this roller coaster. And I'm sorry, I'm from Tampa. We have Busch Gardens right across the street. And I don't have to put my freaking phone away when I go and ride those roller coasters. That place is nothing but roller coasters. And, you know, just secure all loose articles and you're good to go. But apparently at Universal Studios, you can't do that. Now, it might be because, like, the point is, like, it's a roller coaster that's going over a good section of the park. But again, there's a simple solution to that. You put a net up. You put a net up. Someone drops something or whatnot, it's going to go hit the net, and they'll probably have lost it forever. But the point is that you're not going to, like, kill anybody by having it, like, fall down and, you know, slam into their head. So, I mean, I just kind of, like, it looks like a fun enough ride, but at the same time, it's like, no, fuck you. I'm not putting my stuff in, like, I didn't want to put my stuff in a cubby for a minute. And it's just, I feel like I shouldn't have to. It's like there are other parks that have been doing this for a long time that do this better. And yeah, I think they need a better system for that. So, and again, I already rode some great roller coasters this year. I rolled them at Howl-O-Scream. So that and the Blumhouse is my only real criticism of Universal Studios. Those are some things I definitely think they should change. Other than that, I had a great time. There was some good food here too. I went to like the little deli that was right in the front. Had myself like a big turkey sandwich, like the start of the night, and key lime pie. Later on, I got some pizza. I got some little Dippin' Dots later on. At the very end of the night, before I left, one more Halloween celebration. I stopped by the Monster Cafe, which of course is host to the Universal Monsters. You have these big, awesome like displays of like Frankenstein and the Wolfman, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, and the sci-fi section, which has like classic like space movies, including a whole section dedicated to This Island Earth. Classic science fiction movie by Universal, including the big brainy mutant and whatnot. Made like, well, it was one of Universal's best successes, and it was also lampooned in Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie. That's how I learned about it. That's how I liked it. I not only liked that movie so much, the movie making fun of it, but I genuinely liked, you know, like in between them joking, I actually really got involved in the story, and I actually checked it out, the unriffed version, and it's really awesome. So that was a nice little place to end the night, and I had a little bit of dinner there. I think I had a burger, I want to say. Burger and some... no, I think I had more pizza. I had some pizza and cheesecake. Overall, it was a great experience and a great way to end out Halloween. So, well, and of course, the true way I ended Halloween, if you checked it out, I hope you do. I know only 4 or 5 people really check out my role-playing content, was the awesome Halloween game that me, Malmoto, and Xenius had. So, it was a lot of time. It was a great Halloween. This is the end of my Halloween content, at least for now. For those of you who do like the role-playing games, I still want to do like 1 or 2 more sessions of that, namely to give some conclusion to Jedhead's character, actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf, and Kiba's character, the Grim Reaper. And so hopefully we can just get a little fun little conclusion to them. A few more monsters for them to fight. Kind of been thinking about like maybe doing it as like kind of a like just if they like it enough, we could do it as a campaign. But it was really supposed to be just kind of a one-shot. So I don't know. I've had a happy Halloween, folks, and sadly it's over. But you know, it's just Halloween lives forever in your heart, especially. And for me, for those of you who like horror enough, well, every day is Halloween. So this is the Dread Pirate saying once again, stay scared, folks. Stay scared.